Welcome to the midnight tide, where shadows whisper, darkness hides. We're diving deep into the unknown. On a journey, you're not alone. From haunted halls to specters lost, we'll guide you through the eerie frost, with tales that chill and spirits roam. A freaking awesome paranormal show. Ghostly whispers, ancient tomes, mysteries in haunted homes. Brace yourselves, it's time to go. The freaking awesome paranormal show. The freaking awesome paranormal show. Ghostly whispers, ancient tomes, mysteries in haunted homes. Brace yourselves, it's time to go. The freaking awesome paranormal show. The freaking awesome paranormal show. Welcome to the midnight tide, where shadows whisper, darkness hides. We're diving deep into the unknown. On a journey, you're not alone. From haunted halls to specters lost, we'll guide you through the eerie frost, with tales that chill and spirits roam. The freaking awesome paranormal show. Ghostly whispers, ancient tomes, mysteries in haunted homes. Brace yourselves, it's time to go. The freaking awesome paranormal show. The freaking awesome paranormal show. Ghostly whispers, ancient tomes, mysteries in haunted homes. Brace yourselves, it's time to go. The freaking awesome paranormal show.
The engine is starting up.
For launch. GC, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Prop, go. GNC, go. Max, go. Eagle, go. Ecom,
Go pending final steps to cabin link check.
3, 2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the Rift Nation Network, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you could need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
What is up, freaks? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I changed the background a little bit.
I see. I like it.
Yeah. There's some new backgrounds on the restream. So I was trying something a little new. Some astrology.
Some astrology.
Yes. So how is your day going?
Ooh, it's been a busy couple weeks for me. We're working on a project at work, so I haven't had a day off in like 9 days. So
Oh my God.
yeah, so I'm a little
Running.
fried, but I'm glad to be here. This is the
Me
fun
too.
stuff
I'm
I get to do.
glad you're here. I'm glad everyone is here. Happy April Fool's Day.
April Fools.
Did you get anybody try to fool you today?
No, nobody. It's
Me
like
neither.
people have lost their zest for April Fools. Maybe because the
Remember-
world has become one big April Fool, right?
That's true. That's true. I mean, people will put stuff on Facebook, like a status update, where it'd be like, oh my God, I'm pregnant, something like that, to try to get people stuff like, But I remember when we were kids, trying to pull off an April Fool's without cracking a smile or laughing was always the hardest part for me.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And of course they're expecting it, so it can't be something completely, crazy. But
Yeah. I don't have a good poker face, so if I'm up to
Me
something,
neither.
you can usually tell.
it just felt like it was a bigger deal
Yeah.
when we were kids. That and St. Patrick's Day felt like a bigger deal when we were kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
nobody gets pinched anymore
Nope.
for not wearing green.
Nope.
You probably get an assault charge.
You're getting an assault charge, or HR would get involved.
Yeah. I guess it's more appropriate when your kids to pinch each other than it is would be for like a boss to pinch.
Yeah.
Probably not the best idea. I can't see you on YouTube. Let me go to my YouTube page and see if we're on YouTube.
Yeah,
Does
well,
Teresa
you're doing that, I'll
see us
say
on YouTube?
hello, Teresa. Thank you for telling us that. Lois,
Yeah.
Sandra, hello, John Sullivan.
Yeah, we're right there, right here on
And
YouTube, the Ref Nation Network.
We are?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. Cindy
We're
Waghorn,
there.
Christina Spencer, Ashley Herndon. I think I said Lois Clark, Keith Ottersberg. Thank you for sharing us out.
You know what happened? So Teresa says I have 2 invites. So I made the show, right?
Uh-huh.
And it kept saying there was an error happening. So I did it again because apparently there was no error and it was created, but it said that error occurred. So I probably sent like 4 or 5 different invites out because I
That's
kept
probably
doing it over and over and
what
over
it
again.
was, and one of them's not working.
Yeah. So I'm glad Teresa found us.
There
So
you-
yes.
There's your April Fool's Day.
Yes, exactly. I sent you a fake.
There's the trick.
I sent you guys a fake link to the show. That was my big April Fool's joke to you guys. It was I even fooled myself apparently because I didn't realize it was happening, but we'll just go with that. That I sent you guys a fake link. Let's see. They announced a change to Teen Burger at work. Oh, was that A&W has a Teen Burger? He must be from Canada.
Yeah,
they're
the
talking about
poutine
poutine
mixed with fries and gravy and cheese curds in addition to what it already is. Was scary and thankful a hoax. Oh, so they were going to add poutine to the burger?
That might actually have been good.
I don't know. I like some poutine. It's good.
Me too. Apparently, it's only in Canada. Can we get poutine down here?
We can. You can go to, I forget what city it is, like Abington, Virginia, has a diner that has it. We found it.
Yes, A&W. All right, cool. I like the root beer. They used to have an A&W at Chesterfield Town Center in the food court.
Did they?
A&W hot dogs. Yep. But they closed that down. Apparently, they're not too fond of the poutine on the Teen Burger up in Canada. That is a no-no up there. And I feel bad for saying anything. I apologize to all of Canada for thinking that might be good. It is April Fool's Day, of course, but I would be remiss not to mention the other huge holiday that happens today. Of course, we all know it is National 1 Cent Day.
1 cent?
1 cent day. Today is the day to celebrate the goodness of the penny. Or whatever coin is equivalent to a penny all over the world. You guys are lagging. Man, what is going on with the system tonight?
I don't know.
Well, we apologize for that.
Yeah.
Hey, Shonda. Whistle dogs.
Whistle dogs.
It must be another Canadian thing.
Fries, gravy, and cheese curds. Yep. The one I had when we were in Covington was, I think it was the fries, the gravy, the cheese curds, and burnt ends. And it was so good.
I had poutine in France in Busch Gardens. They had a food festival there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
I don't know why they don't have more poutine places around here, or at least offer it.
Yeah.
In places around here.
I didn't even know what it was till we walked in that restaurant, and then now I know, and I'm a fan.
It's so good. We don't do pennies. I actually have a Canadian penny.
I have a couple Canadian pennies.
They're worthless now because they don't do pennies anymore. So they could be worth more depending on how long we keep them and how they go away. So
yeah, they keep saying they're taking our pennies out of circulation. I don't know if they've actually done it or not, but
there's a lot of places that are going cashless.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're making progress towards that for sure. So yeah, April Fool's Day. Angie and the kids are at Great Wolf Lodge, and I am here with the dog, who is currently sleeping on the couch. So, but I am, doing puppy duty on my own. So if you hear barking or something, I might mute myself and go take care of the puppy.
Welcome to dog life.
Yes.
Mine are sleeping right now. For how long, I don't know.
I thought for sure she would freak out when they left. So I took her to the park, had her walk around a little bit. When we got back, she was perfectly fine. So hopefully she stays that way.
Yeah.
And let's us get through the show because I'm excited about our topic of conversation.
Yeah, me too.
We're going to talk about Bigfoot, and since last one we had Maxim Furyk on.
Yeah.
That was a fun conversation.
Yeah.
So you have some cards for us?
I actually just pulled an Oracle deck because I'm a little, like I said, fried from working so much, and so I opted not to do tarot cards for me to kind of tap in and see what I felt like they meant. So we're just going to pull an Oracle card and see what the collective needs to know this week.
That's right.
Let's see. What does everyone need to be aware of and practice this week? Cut it in half and pull. All right. What did we get? So I'm pulling from Spirit of the Animals Oracle, and we got a hummingbird, which says, miracles, you are the joy bringer. You bless the world with positivity and love. Energy soars on your shining wings. Spread the miracle of happiness. And it's been kind of hard not to have some happiness with all this wonderful spring-like world we have coming out for us right now. The trees are filling in, and there's flowers and warmth. And I know Michael Brooks is going to say it's too hot, but it's not.
Not yet.
Not
yet. No, not yet.
These are amongst us.
I'll get to that point. Don't worry.
So, yeah, just a reminder to spread a little happiness this week.
Well, I have to say, thank goodness for allergy medicine.
Amen.
I had Rihanna come over yesterday, and she looked like she was crying. Her eyes were so puffy. I'm like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Allergies."
Yeah,
like,
it's my eyes. This too. Like I take my allergy, but my eyes have just felt like they've had dirt in them for a couple of days. It's bad.
It's like all the inconvenience of being sick, sore throat, stuffy head, but you can't take off of work for allergies.
Because everyone's got it.
Yes. Like Crimea River, everyone has allergies. Shut up and get to work. It's good today.
I told you he was going to say it was too hot.
We'll show Will.
You and Ryan.
Hey, I'm not complaining about the hot heat in August or April. August I will be. But April,
nice.
No. So what's the difference between an oracle card and the cards you just read, or the cards you usually read?
So oracle cards can range in the amount of cards you have. Most of them are pre-printed, and they kind of where you can read them intuitively. If they don't have it, most of them have the message right on the card, and you just can kind of read it and apply it. Some of them don't, but the majority of oracle cards have a preset meaning to them. Tarot cards are a deck of 78, and each card has an assigned meaning, but that meaning can change depending on what cards are around it.
Awesome. So basically, oracle is like you read what's on the card. Doesn't need to be interpreted.
Yeah, you can interpret it because some don't. Some might give you just one word, one might just say strength, and then you've got to kind of look and say, what do I feel like that means? This particular deck had it spelled out for me. So
we can do a whole show on the difference
We
between like angel cards, oracle cards. You know, we should bring Dana back on the show. We'll do a tarot card show for sure. Next up, it's time for the Freakin Awesome playlist.
Yep.
We choose 3 songs, 1, 2, 3, from Howie, myself, and Rhonda.
Okay.
We host a podcast the second Sunday. So not this Sunday, but the next Sunday we will be on, and I think we're talking about 1980s soundtracks or something. I have not done any work on that.
I was going to ask you and Howie, what is our topic? Because
1980s soundtracks.
Okay, easy.
And,
we're supposed to pick like 3 songs or 5 songs off of each soundtrack.
Yeah, probably 5 songs.
I remember that.
Off of each soundtrack. This is
We
how
got to make sure we don't pick the same soundtrack.
Yeah, I don't even know any good 80s soundtracks at all. I know songs like from soundtracks, but not like.
Do you want me to give you ideas?
I'm gonna look
Breakfast
first.
Club or like Footloose or like.
That's true.
I think the movie Stand By Me even had all of the movies had a soundtrack.
Yeah, I know. I started listening to soundtracks more in the 90s. Actually going out and buying soundtracks in the 90s when I could actually go out and do that kind of stuff. So 80s is going to be tough, but I'll figure it out. Just I gotta remind myself because
you can't pick the Rocky Horror Picture Show because I think that was 70s.
Oh no. Okay. Well,
I think it was 70s.
I think it was like late 70s.
Late 70s, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys in the chat, the second Sunday, April 13th, I believe it is. We'll be here on YouTube. This isn't a Facebook show. This is a YouTube only show because we get kicked off of Facebook as soon as the first chord hits on one of our songs. So we don't need to do that. Michelle Wilfong says, I love that show about that Oracle cards. See, you ask and we shall.
I can make that happen.
Yeah, we got you. May not be for a while, but we got you. It will happen eventually.
We're kind of full, but we can throw that in somewhere.
Yes, we have got some good shows coming up for you. So my song is Warehouse by the Dave Matthews Band.
Okay.
And Rhonda's song is
Breaking Out of Hell by Airborne.
Nice.
Yeah, which is kind of relatable when you've worked all weekend.
Yeah. Sounds like you're still in hell
until you
have some kind of vacation.
That's right.
And
highway pick.
Let's go ahead and add Daniel Benoit to the show for the paranormal question or the Freakin Awesome Paranormal Show question of the week. Now, it doesn't have to be paranormal. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. Daniel Benoit is a Bigfoot researcher. He's a founder of ECBRO, East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization. And let's go ahead and bring him on the show right here. Hang on a second. Boom. Hey, man. Welcome.
Hey. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
All right. Thanks for having me on to start off with. And this platform is a little new to me, so I had a little trouble getting on, but I figured it out.
I tell you what, some people have had problems, and I'm glad you were able to figure it out. Because some people they can't. You've got to like send them another invitation and stuff like that. So
Well, yeah, one of the things when I try to open it up directly through the Facebook Messenger where you send it to me, and that wasn't working, and I had this notification come up because it wasn't giving me audio or nothing. I couldn't hear none of you guys, and so I was like, oh, wait a minute, I have to tell people this on the platform that I use when I do my podcast. So I was like, let me just copy it and I'll open it up in my main browser, and sure enough, there it is. It works.
Yeah, we found it doesn't iPhone type apps. You've got to try to put it in a Google browser and all kinds of things. It's a little
exactly. That's basically what I had to do because I got an Android phone. So I'm on my phone right now. So yeah, and the other thing is too, I usually turn my phone sideways when I do a podcast, but it won't let me. when I turn my phone aside, it won't rotate my image. It makes me turn sideways. So I got the phone standing up right now. So.
You don't have
But
to
it
do
works.
this the whole time.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly.
So,
Good deal.
at the beginning of the show, or beginning of every week, we'll ask a question. This week is Rhonda's question, and we're all going to answer it. So, what's the paranormal question or the question of the week for?
There's not a paranormal question.
Hey, well, I keep saying paranormal because it's a paranormal show.
Close with our 80s soundtrack. So, because I think a lot of us in here are Gen Xers. Maybe a few are newer than that. But what was your favorite cereal in the mornings when you were a kid?
Oh,
That's a tough one.
yeah, because I can remember a few when I was a kid. But oh, well, I mean, I guess I'll speak on this to start off with. I mean, growing up as a kid, I mean, mom got whatever she felt like getting us. But my favorite that I can remember, and I think they still make it. I don't know. I haven't looked for it in a while. But Kix, Kix.
I forgot about Kix.
They're kid tested,
Yeah.
but they're approved.
Kid tested,
Yes.
they're approved.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. I mean, of course, Rice Krispies too, but Kix, I got to go with Kix. So, because I was an '80s baby. I grew up I was born in 1980. So, and then growing up in the early '80s, to whatever. Yeah, Kix. If it wasn't Kix, it was Wheaties. Because in elementary school, my gym teacher, hey, the first thing he asked when we were in gym class, doing our thing, he's like, "Hey, everyone, eat your Wheaties today."
Yeah, gotta eat your Wheaties. Gotta eat your Wheaties.
Yeah. Yep. But Kix, and then there was others. But Kix is the main one I'm remembering right now. So, but so
I would say, remember Alphabet cereal?
Yeah.
I believe so. I think so.
Like they're like little frosted things of like ABCs and stuff. I used to love the Alphabet cereal.
Oh.
Like Frosted Flakes.
Yeah. I think so. Were they similar? They were kind of similar along the lines of like what was the other cereal? The cereal was frosted, but they had marshmallow, like kind of like symbols of Lucky Charms without the marshmallows, right?
Yeah, it was like Lucky Charms without the marshmallow. And they had Alphabets with the marshmallows. I believe that came in like a pink box. And the Alphabets, the regular one, came in like a blue box. They don't make them anymore.
Okay. Yeah, there was definitely so many different brands. Like, there's a lot of new ones now. I mean, I glance at them when I walk down the cereal aisle in the grocery store now, but
it's like a whole aisle full of them. It's not even just like we had a little section. It's like a whole aisle.
But if I get cereal now, sometimes I find myself getting like the cinnamon checks. Well, I think that's what they are, like a cinnamon sugar checks. Yeah.
We've got apple cinnamon Cheerios, frosted Cheerios, Lucky Charms, Fruity Pebbles, and Great Grains on our shelf right now.
So my two favorite were Fruity Pebbles. And do y'all remember Sugar Smacks?
Oh yeah, that was another one. Yes, that was another one. That was a big one. Yeah.
Frog on the box.
Yep.
They're like the same cereal as the Super Golden Crisp. The sugar with the
they're like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, do they even make those anymore? Or they probably don't, do they?
They do.
No,
they make
the golden ones, or do they call them Sugar Smacks?
Yeah, Sugar Smacks, and they make Super Golden Crisp too.
Okay.
Still.
Yeah, as far as you were talking about, you mentioned Cheerios, a different kind, but yeah, we do have Honey Nut Cheerios because my grandson lives here and he loves the Honey Nut Cheerios. So yeah, but
I enjoyed your show. I enjoyed your video you put out of you investigating Bigfoot with your grandson.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun for me. Getting to enjoy that first time with him. I mean, that was his first time ever out there camping. I had brought him out there a couple times briefly, just to, walk around and in the woods just a little bit and bring him down by the lake, in the area. But like leading up to that moment, I've been trying to coach. He's 4 years old. He'll be 5 in June. And I've been trying to coach him and trying to get him to understand you have to listen to me out here. You can't run off. You have to stay close to me because, I know what's out there. It's just, and it's not just the wildlife. It's the, even though it's where I took him, it was in the national forest. And sure enough, when I got out there Friday evening to go out there to find a camp spot, I was surprised, and then again, I shouldn't have been so surprised because I know it's going to be a nice weekend, but everybody and their brother was out there. Every primitive camp spot either had little tents in it or campers and RVs, and I was like, "Oh man!" I said, "I hope I find a good spot." Sure enough, the spot we did find, I was happy that we got that spot because I've camped in that spot a few times, and my grandson that was with me, well, I had taken his mother back when she was still a teenager. I camped with her in that spot, and so it worked out pretty good because that spot there, I've had some experiences in that location before, so I was like, oh, maybe we might get something this weekend, but we didn't get nothing here. The most that ever happened, or we heard, because I had my parabolic mic, I got a really good parabolic mic, where you could hear stuff from long distance. But it was after we had gone into the tent Saturday night, after we got in there and got settled and everything. I'm laying there, still wide awake. He's already fallen asleep. And the ridge that's up behind us is when I was like, I hear what sound like the closest thing I can recall is like, okay, that sounds like an owl, but that's awful weird sounding. The sequence of the tone was way off to me, and I know owls very well. I've heard, I mean, I hear owls all the time out there, and I've heard them in several different tones and vocals based off of where they're sounding off from. But this was like, I don't know, the best way I could describe it was like a, like 3 times like that. It's like, what the heck? Like, I'm laying there, I was like, what the heck was that? Of course, this was after him, I wish I heard it when I was still up listening through the parabolic mic because I have a recorder. I would like to record that and listen to it again, try to, and get some other input on it. But I don't know. It was just weird because we had gone hiking earlier that day and I took them on, we didn't go up the ridge because it goes quite a ways up. We went in the back behind camp and we actually did a little venturing on the lower part of that ridge, where I couldn't take him too far because I wanted to be careful where I took him, being that it was his first time. But my whole thing was I just wanted him to get familiar with, maneuvering and working through the woods, but I will say I'm very proud of him. He did a real good job. He kept up pretty well, but we're looking to do it again very soon. I won't be able to do it this coming weekend because I know they're calling for rain all weekend, and but I'm going to be looking at the following weekend. Hopefully that works out well. So we'll see how that plays out. So
when you go to a camp like that and you see there are a lot of people around, does that kind of lower your expectations about getting stuff or does it really matter?
Yes, honestly, it actually kind of does. But to my surprise, I guess because like there was another spot up next to us through the woods a little ways. Now at nighttime, you could see their campfire, through the woods. I think they were a middle-aged couple that were just, and so they were very quiet. I knew the other spots that weren't too far off, they had people in them. And overall, everybody in the area, you didn't hear nothing from them. So that was a plus. But sometimes during the summertime when there people pack out and camp out in these areas, sometimes you get some crazies and party animals out there. But to my surprise, everybody was very quiet and did their thing. The most other vocals I heard from a camper just under a mile away, you could hear their dog barking, which only occurred a couple times. But yes, having other people in the area, to me, could either go both ways. It could like, okay, either trigger some kind of activity or just keep everything shut down. Keep everything silent. Which on the most case, that's what happened this past weekend. It was pretty silent, except for that one vocal I heard Saturday evening after we laid down. That was probably around 10 o'clock at night, between 10 and 10:30. Now I will tell you, in that one particular spot where we camped at, back in 2013, I was camping with another individual. We had both of our little tents set up beside each other. We had the fire going. This gentleman, he had his old Jeep parked over on the left side of us, closer to the rest of the tree line. And he had his parabolic mic set up on top of the tent. On top of his Jeep, which I'm thinking, okay, he's leaving it running and leaving the recorder going. Well, we're sitting there, we're kind of talking amongst ourselves, and then, it's kind of quiet, fire's going. And all of a sudden, just on the other side of his Jeep, we hear whoop, 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 like 4 or 5 times. Very close. It sounded like it was literally on the other side of his Jeep. And I stand up and I look at him. I said, Fred, are you hearing this? He said, yeah, man, I hear it. I was like, oh, man. And then I got excited. I was like, okay, these whoops, I hope he got them on the recorder. Sure enough, he goes to grab his recorder and looks at it. He says, oh, man. It was never turned on. Never turned on. Yeah, I was like, yeah, because, for anyone that's out there that's not familiar with when we talk about whoops, there's not really any other known species of animal, or at least around this area, that I know contribute that would make a whoop sound. The only thing I could tell you that I've studied and researched that makes whoop sounds is a primate. Now, with that being said, I'm very careful on this because a lot of people have their different belief system on what Bigfoot might be. Well, based off of my research and studies, and I can get into this if you like, but Bigfoot to me is some form or some type of unknown primate. I'm not saying he's a gorilla. I'm not saying he's a chimpanzee or a orangutan, but I believe he is some form of primate. Scientifically speaking, me and you, we're primates.
Right.
We're of the greater primate species. So I've had people tell me Bigfoot's not a primate; they're human. Well, there's a contradiction in that because you're not understanding what you're saying. So yeah, again, I do believe he is some type of primate. That we do not know. But with everything that we can contribute with behaviors and other activity that everybody points towards and contributes to Bigfoot, well, look at the known species that we know that does exist, that does all the same thing. Look at our known primates, our known non-human primates. The tree knocks, the banging, the various different types of vocals that we hear in North America, that we want to contribute to Bigfoot. Well, our non-human primates do all the same things. Do we understand what their purposes are or why? To a certain extent, we can if you understand a non-human primate, why they do what they do. Some of the vocalizations are to communicate with others. Some of it could be a sign of a warning sign. I believe every vocalization and every activity or behavior has a meaning behind it. Just like our behaviors. We have facial expressions. Or nowadays, if we get angry, we might curse under our breath, or bang something, or punch something. It's the same thing with a primate. They bang on the ground, they slap the ground, they bang on trees, for aggression. But it's believed that banging on trees or wood knocks, as we want to call them, or tree knocks, I personally believe they're a form of communication based off of the experiences I've had with tree knocks. So, I've had responses to my tree knocks with other tree knocks. That there led me to believe that, okay, this sounds like they're communicating. Because one responded to my tree knock, and then seconds later, another one responded, in a different direction. So, to me, with that just one experience, and this happened in that same area some years ago, that's what it contributes. That's what it points towards, We could believe that. It doesn't make it a factual piece of information or data, but we could kind of at least consider that, you know.
Why are they so hard to find? Because there are primates that, you know, Africa in the jungle that you can find eventually, and you find them there, you find where they live and you can see how they act. But these
right.
are just so difficult
Yeah.
to find, take a pictures of. Like, why are they here and why are they so difficult to find, do you think?
Well, in my honest opinion, first of all, they're highly intelligent. Um, I know if I understood a human the way we understand it, we all know us as humans, we're probably the most dangerous species on this earth. Um, you know, because mankind, I mean, looking in other countries and all, you know, we're dangerous to these animals. We're not as respectful to these animals. You know, I'm sure I believe they observe us in many different ways over the years. You know, they see that mankind is uh, not as peaceful as we should be in some ways. You know, I mean, what's the best way to put this? Uh, we're full of corruption. You know, we're you know, we like to be chaotic. You know, especially out in those woods. We're away from our own homes, and we're out there. You know, a lot of these people. And I will tell you, I see a lot of young college people out there. I seen them out there this past weekend when I was leaving to go home on Sunday. I mean, college kids, you know, they like to get rowdy and drunk, and they're the reason why a lot of these other campgrounds in the state forest get shut down, and they put boulders so you can't drive into them no more. Because a lot of the young people, and then again, you got the homeless. A lot of homeless people use these campsites to live in with their tents, and and a lot of them don't care. They're very disrespectful of the land, and they trash it. They leave everything behind, and you know, of course, either the Forest Service or another camper that comes over that wants that spot, they get stuck cleaning that up.
Right.
Little things like that. I'm sure they're very observant of that. And you know, and then again, you know, I myself, when I go out in the forest, I carry. You know, I have a concealed carry permit. I always carry. But then again, on the other hand, you got these idiots out there. I'll call them idiots because you know they are. You know, people start shooting stuff just to shoot at things. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so again, we pose a very dangerous threat to a lot of what's out there, causing a lot of the wildlife to keep their distance. But now, with all that being said, I do believe that they watch. I believe that they are watching us when we're out there, observing us. There's been a number of times where you know I walk through the forest, and you know I know others have said the same thing that they felt like they're being watched. You know, they get that sense of being watched, which most likely you probably were. I wouldn't ignore that feeling. You know, just carry on about your business and respect the land because as we know that there's primatologists out there, like we can name Jane Goodall. I can name another that's been around for many years, like Jane, Ian Redmond. These individuals who've been in the jungles and studying and observing these mountain gorillas right there in their own habitat, in their own environment, within a few feet, seeing them right there in front of their faces. And these gorillas walk behind the foliage. Even though they're still there, they actually disappear right in front of their face because they blend in with their own natural environment. I mean, there's other wildlife I've seen do the same thing. Back when my daughter was a teenager, I've taken her out hunting with me, and we're walking through the woods. And I like to believe I have a pretty good eye, but this girl here had a good, you know, her eye was pretty sharp. She's like, "Daddy, look, there's deer right there." I said, "Where?" And we're coming through the woods in this small little open field with tall grass, and she's seen two deer. And I'm staring in the field, scanning it, and like, sure enough, there goes two deer. They start running off. I'd never seen them, but she did, you know. But then again, you know, they were there. They stood pretty still. They were hidden from me. You know, there's been other times where I was staring the woods, and I'm staring at trees, and all of a sudden I see a flicker of a white tail, And then next you know, my eyes become more in focus, and I'm seeing like a small herd of deer that I've been staring at the whole time and never saw them.
Yeah.
It's just it's all a matter of focus and your senses being alerted to what's really out there. But as far as
So
Sasquatch and evidence, it's there, especially the tracks. The tracks ain't always going to be visible. It depends on the terrain. But as I've spoken to other people in the past, when I share an experience or tell them I find tracks, I've had hunters and hikers tell me, "Well, I'm in the woods all the time. I never see anything." And I said, "Well, you're not looking for it. You know, you're not
mm,
out there to look for Bigfoot. You got to look for it. You got to be willing to take the time to look and scan and observe. But it's out there. You got to take your time. I promise you, it is out there." So,
So that's interesting because I was going to say, when you said there's so many homeless and stuff that are out there in
yeah,
that field, you would think them being out there all the time, that they would
right.
have a lot more, but they probably legitimately, deliberately aren't looking for it.
Right. I mean, they're probably trying to keep it down low. And then again, like, now keep in mind, in the national forest, you can't, like, I know it's the same laws and the same rules apply up in Pennsylvania because I spent some months up in Pennsylvania. And, but in the national forest, you could only stay up to 14 days at a time. So, um, but then again, like I said, I mean, I know a buddy of mine. It's funny because I've seen he's got a small camper, and he was camping not long ago, for about 35, 40 minutes away in another location. But when I rode through this area, I was looking at one of the camp spots where I've camped before, riding through, finding a location. Oh, damn, Greg's up here. Now, well, I'm not going to put his business out there too much, but he's basically living like that, and he knows he can only stay so long at a time. So he went from one location that was 35, 40 minutes away, and now he's up over in this particular area. Now I remember because I ran into him at this other location when I was car camping, and he told me, "Yeah, I'm going to be up around Elkhorn Lake. I think I'm going to move my setup up that way." Sure enough, I saw his setup up there, and but now, as far as these other homeless people, yeah, a lot of these homeless people living that way because that's their choice, and they're not. They can live better than that if they really wanted to. Some of these people, it's easier for them to live cheap that way because they can afford their drugs that way,
Right.
and that's what ruins some of these locations. That's why there's a lot of drug activity in certain locations. You got to. That's why I took my grandson out here. I was like, I feel more comfortable out here. I feel safe out
mhm.
here because where I car camped, I only car camped there because it's a little closer to home, and I promised people that I was doing Facebook Lives out there, and I can get phone service out there. Out here, it's completely primitive. There's no phone service whatsoever. You're pretty deep, a lot deeper in the woods. You got the creek and the river and the streams. And it's just the people up in this particular area tend to be more respectful of the area. You got a lot of locals that come through the area that camp there. And when I say locals, I'm talking about more of the mountain people. They respect the land a lot more than the city folks and their homeless junkies. So and yeah, I will call the homeless junkies because that's the way they choose to live that way. They don't have to live that way. But they're a lot of these homeless people are drug infested junkies. That's why they choose to live that way. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean they're in the forest, they probably just like, it's like they got nothing else to do.
exactly.
So, so how do you think the public's opinion or like I guess their take on Bigfoot has changed through the years?
Well, just in my time on all right, I'm going to talk about social media briefly. Um, Back when I first really was still fresh into this and got involved, when I got on social media, I was actually surprised because I started searching more and I found a few groups and some forums. I was like, oh wow, there's a lot more people involved in this than I realized. And then I started observing some of their their opinions and their theories on the topic, which was, I guess you could say, or how I would say, it was more sound, more logical, and then things started to grow more, kind of rapidly, and where some of the theories grew very, I'm gonna say, kind of weird or crazy, to a certain extent. But the more and more I've seen, and the more you observe in public, like ever since I got involved, I found myself looking for like silly things, like looking at other vehicles, looking at their stickers and their decals. Like, oh, look, they got Bigfoot stickers and this and that. And but back when I first got involved, up till now, it seems like it's exploded. It become more of an open topic. It's become less taboo, if you want to call it that. More and more people have become open minded over the years to consider that possibility. Then again, you got like the ones with stickers and stuff. Some of them like it because they look cool. That's why they got it. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a believer or a knower, but the subject of Bigfoot has become open, more so in recent times. Yeah, there's a big history behind Bigfoot that dates back. A lot of people only want to go back to 1967 where the Roger Patterson, Bob Gimlin footage came out. But Bigfoot history is a lot longer and further back than that. I mean, I'm talking about hundreds of years back than that.
They just show up in the 1960s and decide to show themselves. They've been around for a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm dropping my phone. My phone is propped up on a tackle box.
Something we've never had before on the show. Where the camera has dropped. So this is a first on the Freakin Awesome Paranormal Show.
Yeah, I am sorry about that because it's set up on a sensitive little stand here. So there we go.
Keeps it exciting.
But so yeah, I mean, yeah, I get excited when I see other Bigfoot stuff out there. Like, cool, I feel like the Bigfoot Club is growing, publicly, But yeah, it really has expanded over the years. There's more and more people, even the skeptics that are starting to lean towards considering that possibility a little bit more.
Does it hurt? Does it hurt having like people doing TikToks and stuff, or just putting stuff online for clicks? Are there more fakers out there now? Does that hurt your legit evidence?
Oh, well, I will say this. First of all, I will say it is very aggravating. It is severely aggravating because there are a number of large amount of hoaxers. Some of them are very known. Some of them are just random people doing stupid, silly stuff. When I get people sharing stuff to me all the time. And I had one of my Facebook friends share something recently. I said, oh, man, this is her first time ever seeing this. I was like, that's a very common footage that's been all throughout social media. And it comes from, I will say his name. He's got a YouTube channel with a lot of subscribers. Sunny Vader. Sunny Vader has a lot of very famous video footage that goes viral. And Sunny Vader is a known hoaxer, which he's admitted to it before, but he knows what he's doing because he makes money. He makes money from all the views that his video clips get. And it's the same thing with all these other Bigfoot videos that get put out there and go viral. Some of them are very obvious Bigfoot costumes, and a lot of people see these images and think, "Oh, look at this trail cam photo," and they share it to me. I said, "Dude, it's a costume." I said anybody can get in a costume and walk in front of their trail camera. I mean, look up. And I tell people this: look up and Google Bigfoot costumes. They're all over. You could see and compare what you're showing me. You'll find that same costume multiple times. But yes, the hoaxers do put a hurting on people like me and many others out there that are trying to take this serious. Because like my thing is, and and here's the thing: if I ever capture Bigfoot on camera, I should say if and when, because I hope that it does happen, and I do decide to share it publicly, my mindset on that is I don't care who believes it. I just know, and I will swear to it that this is not a hoax. I don't play that game. I said I'm the one that was always calling out the hoaxes and pointing it out there. But with everything that's put out there, because even some of the real footage, even the Patterson footage, that stuff, there's people that will tear that apart and disregard that. I do believe that was legit, regardless of the rumors that were taking place back then. With Bob Hieronymus claiming he was the guy in the Bigfoot costume. But none of that evidence ever came to pass. So there was a lot of science and a lot of information that went behind that whole footage. They studied the footcasts that were found on site. They studied and analyzed the gait of the walk with that. No human was able to mimic or imitate that walk. So to me, there was so much that supports it being the real deal. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Dr. Jeff Meldrum stakes his reputation on that, and he's got a lot to lose. He's a professor from Idaho State University of anthropology. So yeah, I mean, there is some legit stuff out there, but a majority of what you see is BS and a complete hoax, because the people that are creating these hoaxes know that 99.9% of the people watching on social media are gullible. They are. They are severely gullible and believe anything on social media. And I tell people, when I present something, when I show or share some research or post a blog, read what I'm saying, try to understand what I'm saying. If you don't understand it, please do not be afraid to question it. Don't accept what I'm saying. I question it. Maybe, if you're not understanding what I'm putting out there, maybe I could explain it in a better way, because I try to keep things as simple as possible. I really do. I really try to keep things simple. I want people to understand my point of view and where I'm coming from and why I share what I do and what's the piece of evidence or the information or the data that is supporting my belief or my views on these things. Now, I have some friends. I have a lot of friends that have a different views and feel things and see things differently than I do. But I keep an open mind to what they point out there and what they feel and share. Because I've had individuals out there that come out on my group campouts. And, well, now for the record, I'll say this. I'm sure you guys heard this term. A lot of people want to refer to this as the woo. Well, now with what they talk about, we look. Some of us do look at Bigfoot in a spiritual sense, as a lot of Native Americans look at a lot of flesh and blood animals in a spiritual sense. A lot of people believe that Bigfoot may have some special abilities. Now, I'm not going to say he doesn't because I don't know. I'm not an expert in that field. I don't know nothing about that. He very well may be. I will tell you, I have seen some things up in Pennsylvania that I've never seen elsewhere that I can't explain. I mean, I don't know if it was, I don't know if I could contribute it to Bigfoot or not, but I have seen some things at nighttime in the woods that, like, for example, I will tell you, this was probably around January, February, very cold temperatures. And there's no fireflies out at night in those severely cold temperatures. And I will say that what I've seen in the woods looked like stars flashing in the woods. Some of them were blue, some of them were yellow. On occasion, you might see one or two little red ones. But this was happening in a cluster, and some of them spread apart and moved, over a period of time while watching all this. I've seen this in one section of the woods up there in one of the state forests up there. And about a mile away, hanging out in another area with the individual I was with, I started to see them again in a different section of woods up there. Now, the girl I was dating at the time, and I was staying with her up there, she believed, and she quoted, and I'm not going to say she was lying, but this was her belief, that it was a type of energy. It was energy being projected or put out there from a Bigfoot. That's very possible. I mean, I had no evidence to jump aboard and say, yeah, you're right. I don't know that, but that was her belief system. A lot of people believe in that same thing. So I'm not going to dismiss it because I don't have nothing to dismiss it with, you know. But then again, I don't have nothing to really fall on that or lean towards. Like, okay, she's telling the truth. I mean, that's her belief system. But
Yeah, that
so
was what I was going to ask you. It's like some of these other theories that people have come up with, like the spiritual aspect of it. Then you hear other, I guess, thoughts that, you know, Bigfoot could be alien, or it could be a being that travels through dimensions, and I was curious about what your take on all of that was.
well, it's funny you mentioned alien because one of my guest speakers at my conference coming up in June here in Virginia, he has witnessed UFOs. He has seen them up close, according to his story. And now he claims. I mean, I don't want to get too much into detail. He could explain it better. I've heard him tell this at least a couple times up in Pennsylvania. But he's coming down from Pennsylvania to speak at my event, and again, he's a UFO eyewitness. He's seen three figures up close in the front of the spaceship, and he's actually suffered radiation from this spaceship. It was so close to him, you know. But he has also witnessed that there was a Bigfoot present in the same area or coming. I don't know. I don't want to say he said he saw it coming out, but it was, I don't know. It just so happened to be there. But some people do believe in that theory. I've heard others in the past or on documentaries, and other people say, yeah, there was a UFO in there, and what a coincidence. There was a Bigfoot sighted in the area. You know, I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, or if it has any correlation or connection. But, you know, then again, with that being said, some people say that they do believe they're flesh and blood, but they don't believe they're interdimensional, which a large portion of the Bigfoot community does believe they are. Then again, with that being said, there's also no evidence of that, but that's their belief system. You know, I don't want to knock anybody for their belief system, but what my question is, what gives you that belief system? What supports that belief system? That's my whole problem with a lot of what's out there when it comes to theories. You know, over the years, I used to be a diehard, very 100% fully objective on a lot of this, but you know, I've learned to become open-minded, so I have to ask the questions. I need to understand you. What gives you that data? What gives you that information that support your belief system? That's all I'm doing is questioning, you know, and I need to question it, and we all need to question things. You know, we can believe anything we want. It makes us feel good because we believe something cool. We believe something that's in our imagination. You know,
I think a
so
lot of times people they'll you know, they think it's all multidimensional or interdimensional because it's so hard to find. They seem to
yeah,
you know be so elusive, and lots of times you take pictures of they turn out to be blurry
yeah.
for the most part. So maybe they're trying to look at it from that point of view. Where like, you know, it's the reason why they're so hard to find. And when
Right.
you is there a particular time of year that is best to go find Bigfoot?
In my honest opinion, based off of my observations and my experiences over the year, I will say yes. Early to mid spring and early to mid fall. And the reason I state these times a year, now don't get me wrong, there's been activities and things occurred between the warmer months, much warmer months, but these times of year, the temperatures are mild. Yes, they get warm, but they're not severely warm. They're more, you know, and they get cool at night, especially. I'm referring to more like my main research area because you're in the mountains and the temperatures out in that area tend to be anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees cooler than the rest of the area. You know, and then the thing is just early to mid spring, a lot of your wildlife is starting to move around more. You know, same thing with early to mid fall. It's not cold yet, but yet your temperatures are, you know, it's the same, almost the same with early to mid spring. Your temperatures are, you know, still very mild. They can still be warm. You know, shoot, we've had warm, hot temperatures in November, you know, in the past, you know, especially during hunting season. Because I hunt, even though I haven't hunted for the last few years, but during my last few hunting years, the temperature's been very mild. I mean, I've had some temperatures where when I experience warm temperatures in November, when it's supposed to be cold, I'll stop hunting altogether. One, it's not good because if you shoot a deer, it's unless you take care of it right away, the meat could easily spoil. Um, but yeah, it's just these time of year, it's comfortable. That's the way I look at it. Because if I have to put, I would tell anybody, put yourself in that position. If you're living out in those woods, if it's hot out, wouldn't you want to be bunkered down around a rock cliff and some water, and not really move around too much because it's too hot to move around? If it's more comfortable, yeah, I'll be likely to like, okay, hey, let's go on a hike. It's the same thing when I do my group campouts. Yeah, we like to hike. We like to explore out there, especially during the daytime. If we're gonna move around, hey, hopefully it's not too hot. I don't want to hike too long if it's gonna be hot, So that's my mindset. If it's too hot for me to move around, I think, well, it might be too hot for Bigfoot to move around. He's gonna be hiding somewhere, bunker
Yeah.
down in a shady cave or something, So, but that's the way I look at it, me personally.
So, is Virginia a hot spot for Bigfoot?
I'm going to be honest with you. It absolutely is. It really is. Because even though I've had journalists do reports, I had a buddy of mine that lives in Northern Virginia send me some information. I didn't know nothing about this, but this is a local journalist because of my conference I put on every June here in Virginia. Her article is basically more or less putting my event down because there's no Bigfoots in Virginia, she was saying. Bigfoot's out west, And I was like, man, it's amazing how ignorant people reveal themselves out in the open. What little research do they really do? Because there's a lot of information over the years. I've gathered multiple reports from eyewitnesses right here in the Shenandoah Valley. And I've gotten some recent reports, just a couple weeks ago. And based off of my research, there's other researchers here in Virginia that I associate with. They share information with me. There's people just on the other side of the mountain over there, over towards Nelson and Albemarle County, that they're more around. What's the area called? Oh man, like a Bedford area, Bedford, Virginia. They search the mountains and the hills and woods around there and find things. My main focus is here up in the Shenandoah Valley and out towards the western part of the state, and all throughout the George Washington National Forest, up and down. There's several areas here in Virginia I've gone to investigate, and for the record, Virginia is not the only place I investigate. I do go up and down the East Coast throughout the year. I've been down to South Carolina, North Carolina. I spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania seems to be, besides Virginia, Pennsylvania seems to be the main state I do a lot of research in because there's a lot of stories and reports coming out of that state, so, but yeah, Virginia, and I tell people this too. I shouldn't say just Virginia, but the East Coast is highly underestimated. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because the Pacific Northwest is where everything got its reputation.
Right.
Everything's focused out there because they do have a lot of deep woods and heavy terrain. Well, we have it too, and it's just people don't realize that. These journalists, there are a lot of them are joke anyway because I've had journalists do stories on me, and I give them the information they ask for, and their stories don't even sound nothing like what I told them anyway. They're all a bunch of, I don't know, idiots. But that's why I prefer putting my information out there through blog because I know I'm putting it out there the way I want it to be heard. So, same thing with a few books I have written. I have a few research guides out there. So, but yes, Bigfoot is here in Virginia, and I will tell you, even on the eastern parts of Virginia, in Louisa County, Chesterfield. Oh man, I've heard a lot out of Chesterfield. I used to live in Chesterfield some years ago when I was married to my daughter's mother. So I know the areas out there, and yeah, and I grew up north of Richmond. I grew up in Caroline County, by the way.
Okay.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I think one was seen this last year crossing this road in Carolina or Fredericksburg in that area.
That was up in Louisa. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a part of Louisa, over not too far from the courthouse in Louisa. So, well, Spotsylvania courthouse, I think,
Yeah.
which is not far from Spotsylvania. Louisa. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Howie
'cause I-
says Roanoke and Radford area, Messina and Harrisonburg, Afton Mountain, all
Yes.
you know, one of those.
Oh, absolutely. Afton Mountain's right over here. Yeah,
Mhm.
not far from me. Talking about like Richmond. Probably about, I want to say 6, 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. I was actually headed to North Carolina. Because you guys know I'm out here in Shenandoah Valley. I was driving down. I went through the city of Richmond. I was going down 95 South, and it was before I got to Petersburg. I was on 95 southbound, and now this is something I shared. I don't know. It was the strangest thing ever. I don't know what to think of this, but I was headed down southbound on 95, and again, this is before I got down to the Petersburg area. And you guys, if you've been on the highway enough here in Virginia, we have I don't know if they still, the DBI trucks. They usually pick up. Usually they clean up debris and stuff on the side of the road or what have it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, there was several of them in a cluster blocking one lane southbound, and and then there was an arrow for everybody to get over into the one lane, and so we're all slowing down, getting over to the left lane, and I was like, "What the heck's going on here?" I figured maybe it was a major accident they're trying to block off. I didn't see no emergency vehicles. I saw all these DBI, trucks that clean up the highways. And I said, "What the heck's going on here?" And I'm driving along slow. And all of a sudden, I do see one state trooper. They're parked off the exit of there was an exit ramp going off. They were parked next to this SUV, this like Chevy Suburban or whatever it was, talking to a lady that was driving. But over there between them and the rest of the trucks, right there where the exit is going on, right before you get on the turn to go on the exit, in the middle of the road by the exit ramp, I seen something covered up it was covered up in a yellow blanket. And I was like, what the heck is that? That is weird. All you see, it wasn't a big blanket, so it wasn't covering it up completely. Whatever was sticking out the sides and the back looked like these brown, like a reddish brown, like hairy limbs, like long hairy limbs sticking out. And I was like, what the heck is that? And I was like, I got to think, I said, that ain't a deer. Deer don't have long hair like that. I was like, bears in Virginia are all black.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the heck it was. I had no idea. I was like, that's weird. Why the heck? I didn't know what to think of it. And then I didn't realize it till coming back, because I actually made a short Facebook Live video after I seen that, explaining to everybody what I was seeing. It was the weirdest thing ever. I said, what the heck could that have been? But coming back from North Carolina, and I remember the exit number, because I was like, okay, the exit number's coming up. And I just so happened to see on the opposite side of the road, all you see is trees, and there's a sign. I don't remember the name of it, but it was some kind of swamp over there. It was a title of a swamp that was over there. And because a buddy of mine that lives, he lives in Tennessee now, but he grew up around Mechanicsville, or lived in Mechanicsville, and he was telling me about all the different Bigfoot reports he's heard of along that way. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't know what to think of it. I mean, it was something covered up. There was brown, hairy fur, and I was able to go online. Well, I can't say that it did, but then again, I don't know. It was just the weird thing, because most of it was covered up under a yellow blanket. And I've had friends of mine that were, police officers in another state, and said, well, if that was any known species of animal, it wouldn't have been covered up like that. Animals get hit all the time on the road.
Animals with blankets when they're on the side of the road.
I mean, the only thing I could think of, if maybe whatever the SUV was, maybe they had kids in the car and the kids didn't, they were hiding in it, so the kids didn't see it. I don't know. But, you know, the couple different police officers I spoke to said, yeah, they don't cover up animals that get hit if it's a known species. So I don't know. It was just weird. And again, that was south of Richmond before you get to Petersburg. So
Which would make sense down that way too.
right.
Yeah.
So
We're getting towards the end of the show here. I want to give you a chance to talk about your convention you have coming up, talk about your podcast, whatever you want to do to plug whatever you have going on. We'd love to hear how people can get in touch with you and get tickets for your convention in June.
okay, sure. Well, first of all, the event in June is 100% free. Normally, we have done tickets in the past, but this year we're completely free. The ECBRO Annual Virginia Bigfoot Conference is happening June 20th and the 21st. Now, June 20th is a Friday. We're going to have all the vendors there. We're going to have a couple guest speakers on Friday night, and we're going to do a discussion there. So please feel free to come sit in on that. June 21st, the main day, which is Saturday. All the vendors will be there. We have a lineup of speakers, and just recently there's been a change in the scheduling of speakers. One thing we made a slight change. After all the speakers go through, we're going to have an open panel. We're calling it. I haven't posted about it yet, so this is the first time I'm speaking about it. But we're going to have an open panel to where we're calling it the Encounter Hour. So anybody that wants to that comes out and wants to if you have a story or an encounter or an experience, anything strange, we want to hear from you, because around 3:00 on Saturday, please come forward and share your story with us. We would love to hear it. Now it will be recorded because one of our guest speakers, he's coming down from Canada, and he is a reward. He's a film. He's the one behind, for anyone who watches and follows, Searching for Sasquatch. He's got a YouTube series. He's on Prime. He's got Amazon Prime, and he updates and posts all on Facebook. Jason Kenzie. Again, check out Searching for Sasquatch. His shows and documentaries are pretty cool. Before he got involved with Bigfoot, he was a wildlife photographer and researcher. But he's been involved with Bigfoot research for a long time now, and but he's going to be there. So yeah, June 20th and 21st, come on out to the Virginia Bigfoot Conference. It's happening in Wares Cave, Virginia, at the Wares Cave Community Center. And if you're not familiar with that area, Wares Cave is WEWER Cave, Wares Cave, Virginia, at the Wares Cave Community Center. So we have a Facebook event page. We also have we have our website, vabigfootcon.com. So
That is so cool.
yeah, and you guys, please feel free to come on out. We'd love to have you guys there. So, like I said, it's a free event. We got food trucks, all kinds of cool vendors. And the other thing we're doing, which is completely new for us this year, is we're adding a big mix to the Bigfoot Conference. We are having the Medieval Renaissance Fair there. Well, it's not the fair, but it's a large group of the Medieval Renaissance group. They'll be performing, doing demos and battles. They'll be dressed in their attire. So we think that's going to draw a crowd in itself. So they're going to be performing on Saturday, the 21st of June. So we encourage everybody to come there. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah,
Awesome.
I mean, we got food trucks. We got, there'll be rides and stuff for kids. So there's going to be something there for everybody. I promise you. So, and it's a free event. You can't go wrong. And you get to hear some cool speakers and check out the cool, all the cool vendors. We got Bigfoot encrypted theme vendors. We got arts and crafts. We got paranormal. My good friends are part of a paranormal team here in the Shenandoah Valley. They're one of my sponsors. They also go by the Twisted Realm Society or the Twisted Paranormal Society.
They're coming to the cabin this weekend.
Yes, they're a big part of that event. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Lyle, Tana, and Brandon. Yeah, they're good friends of mine.
Yeah.
They live up. Yeah, they live right here. They actually did a documentary on me a couple years ago, Beast of Elkhorn Lake.
Okay.
So,
Awesome. Yeah, I love those
yeah,
guys.
yep, yeah. They're good friends of mine, and yeah, too bad. Just a week ago, I missed Lyle. I was supposed to go over there, but Lyle, Tana put a surprise birthday party on
Yeah,
for Lyle. And
I was invited to it too. I couldn't make it though.
yeah, yeah, I was going to, but I ended up working overtime Saturday morning. Like I went in, I had to go in at 2 o'clock in the morning, got off at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I ended up sleeping on and off throughout the rest of the day. I was like, oh man, I was just drained and tired.
Yeah,
So,
I mean it's maybe we'll catch them next time.
yeah,
But,
absolutely.
I want to thank you for coming on the show and talking with us. We'll have to have you back on because there was a lot.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, a lot more I could have asked.
Yes.
Oh yeah, bring the questions on. I love them. If I don't know an answer, I'll give you the most logical explanation possible. So,
Well,
Right.
we appreciate that, and we appreciate you, and we'll definitely have you back on. And we'll talk to you soon.
sounds good. Thank you guys again for having me on here. This has been great, guys.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you. We'll see you soon.
Sounds good, guys.
Bye.
Bye. That was a fun show.
That was
I
fun.
really enjoyed that.
I got more questions. Like the more we talked, I was writing down stuff. I was like, "Ooh, I'll never get to all this tonight."
wanted to go into his first experience, but we started going a different direction. And I'm like, no sense in going backwards. Right? Just keep on going.
Let's keep trucking.
Just keep on trucking the way we're going. A few notes to talk about before we go.
Okay.
Cabin Con.
Cabin Con.
At the Cabin on 360 is May 31st through June 1st. We are going to be there. I felt like I've been slacking off, honestly. Cabin wise, I haven't really been to any investigations out there this year at all, just because work and stuff getting in the way. Like this weekend, I'm going to the beach, and there's a that's what Haunted Nights is going to be there.
Right.
On Saturday and Sunday, but spring break, and we have a beach house, so
yeah. I mean,
so,
spring break beach house.
Yeah. I got to do
it.
No, yeah, exactly. So I won't be there this weekend, but Haunted Nights is having an event at the Cabin on 360. They're going to be doing a 2-night investigation out there. So if you guys are interested, or you're in a neighborhood and you want to come out to the Cabin, they do a great job.
Yes, they
with
do.
their investigations. I think you guys have a lockdown or something coming up.
We have a lockdown at Belgrove on the 12th.
The 12th.
Yep.
So you can go to the Cabin this weekend, and then next weekend go to the
Belgrove to our paranormal lockdown.
Yeah, I think we have another investigation at the Cabin to raise money for flags.
I thought I saw that.
So, if you're in their area and you want to investigate a really cool haunted location, come out to the Cabin on 360 or go up to Belgrove Plantation. I really enjoyed the Orion Effect.
That's so cool.
Sunday.
I'm reading his book now, and it's like, wow. It's really cool.
Such an interesting story.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And that was fun. I enjoyed the show. Thank everyone for tuning in. You can look up ECBRO on YouTube. He has a bunch of videos on there of his Bigfoot adventures. We definitely appreciate everyone in chat. Who do you guys have coming up next week?
I forget his name. I should have looked it up because it's not something I'm familiar with, but it's somebody from Things Network, one of the hosts from the Things Network. So he'll be on. So that'll be fun.
We have got GHOST Ghost Paranormal on the show next week. So going back to the ghosts next week.
Back to ghosts.
Go back to the ghosties. That's going to be fun. looking forward to chatting with them about all their paranormal adventures. And so Rhonda, thank you so much. It was
You're
a fun
welcome.
show.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be.
Hope you get some kind of a break so you don't have a.
Yes, I should not be working this weekend. Fingers
Awesome.
crossed.
You
It's
can
been a little
relax.
crazy. We seem to always get. It's very strange. We were actually talking about it today at work. It seems like in March or April, we always seem to get a big project that's kind of like pushing. So, yeah.
Well, hopefully you get to relax and refocus on everything.
Yes,
So
yes.
all right, guys, we're gonna take off, and we will see you next week with GHOST Paranormal. Same freaking awesome time.
Same freaking awesome show.
See you later.
Good night, y'all.
Bye.